Hey everybody, TC Kirkham here, TKR Video Central. Welcome to TC's Vinyl Archive, the complete albums collection. Got several episodes of this in the can, and we're going to finish up the male artist this week on this show. The schedule for the next several shows, I'll have 3 shows of female artists and then 1 show of duos, and those will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. We left off with the STs on the males, and so that's where we're going to start this one. It's going to be a little shorter because male and female shared a cue on this particular instance. We'll kick it off with the 3 albums I own by the legendary Al Stewart. This is the early years. I picked this up from Record Crate. This is a lot of early material. I've only listened to it a couple of times, but it is rather good. And then, of course, this is Time Passages, which is my favorite stuff by him. You're the Cat is okay, and I think that's this one. Yeah. But I enjoy this more. And as I said, You're the Cat, I bought this from Dawn, I believe. Yeah, it looks like it because the post-it note, that's Dawn. This is actually on Janus Records, so that might be a European release, but it didn't come with the original sleeve, but it's in good shape, and it sounds great. Rod Stewart and Camouflage. Let me see. I can't read this because the print is so terrible on this one, and it's on the label too. Look at that. I believe it has a great cover of Can We Still Be Friends on it, the Todd Rundgren song, and I believe, let me see. Jesus, I really can't read this with my eyesight is just terrible anymore. Camouflage has some good stuff on it. It's your typical mid-'80s, early '80s Rod Stewart. Two songs by one of my favorite independent artists. If you don't know who he is, you should look him up. What's this one? Building Balance from Alan Stone. Alan Stone is based out of Spokane, Washington. He was the runner-up at the first and only American Song Contest. I fell in love with his music. If you followed my chart a couple years ago when it was active on the site, his hit Magic hit #1. Love Alan. He's got a great voice. His most recent release from his upcoming album is a cover of Christopher Cross's Ride Like the Wind, and it is fantastic. This is a full album. This one is an EP called Mystery, and has some great stuff on it. I was a little irritated they didn't include Magic with this. Magic is not available on one of his vinyls yet. It comes with a poster and all kinds of stuff. I bought it from his website. Great album. 2 albums from 2 different eras by Foster Silvers. Do you remember Foster Silvers? He was the youngest member of the Silvers group. Back in 1973, he hit it big before the family did with this album, Foster Silvers. It features his top 20 hit Misdemeanor. And then later, after the Silvers became popular as a group, he also recorded this solo album, also called Foster Silvers. There weren't any really big hits off here, although I want to say Knocking at Your Door and Goody Goody were the 2 singles. James Taylor, Never Die Young. This is from the late 80s. I picked this up from Columbia House during one of my 13 for 1 cent ones because I couldn't find anything else. I've never been an overwhelmingly huge James Taylor fan, but I actually do like this album. It's got a lot of good stuff on it. Wasn't a big hit. The title track was a minor hit on the AC chart. But I have enjoyed his brother. This is Live from Livingston Taylor. This was no big hits on this. This is when he was still on Capricorn. And several might be, if you're familiar with his music, you might know some of these. And then I think this goes back even further to his days on Atco. He was very young back then. Of course, the only big hit he had was on Epic, 1977's I Will Be in Love with You. But he's got a great voice. He sounds very similar to his brother. I have several albums by this gentleman, although this is the only one on vinyl. This is B.J. Thomas, Throwing Rocks at the Moon. I picked this up because it has his cover, or his, not cover, his version of um, As Long as We Got Each Other, which was the theme from Growing Pains. This was, I believe this is the original one. It was later done as a duet with Dusty Springfield. I'm not sure if the Dusty Springfield one is on there. I have an album on CD which has the version with Dusty Springfield on it. That one's called Midnight Minute, and I love that one. This is good. Not as good as that one though. Um, this is this was released in between his time with the Elvin Bishop project and I want to say Edgar Winter at one point, and his long run as the new lead vocalist of Starship. This is Mickey Thomas and As Long as You Love Me. This came out in '78, I believe. Checking the disco date here, '77. This was one of those things I got for the 10-cent cutouts, and boy, can you tell! Look at that! Look at that blade mark on the back. That was that way when I bought it. It's a good album. Mickey is not a bad artist. I mean, he doesn't do bad vocals. He's just terrific. Actors who sang, once again. And again, I did not pay full price for this like I did Don Johnson. I got this in the cutout bin for $2. This is Philip Michael Thomas, Living the Book of My Life. It's kind of an R&B reggae style album. He's a great singer, a great songwriter and vocalist, but it was not the hit Don's album was that year. This album has a story behind it. When the song was originally released, it became a modest pop hit in the 50s, a big hit on the dance chart. He now claims he did not do the vocal on that the rest of the album was him. But that one first single, even though he's in the video, was not him. And this is also a stage name. He doesn't use the stage name anymore. This is Nolan Thomas and Yo Little Brother from 1985. One of my favorite albums this year. Got a lot of play. Does a great cover of One Bad Apple on here. A parody of how Caucasian people started doing rap music called Too White, which is hilarious. And an answer song, I Promise If I Take You Home. I don't know if it's an answer or the original, but I Wonder If I Take You Home by Lisa and Cold Jam, which was also produced by Nolan's producer, is the same melody. It has different lyrics, though. Nolan is now known as Marco Calfa. He is a celebrity photographer in New York. And that's under his real name, by the way. Okay, now I need to talk about this guy. I became a huge fan of this guy when his debut album came out in 1981. He released another album in 1982. Didn't do as well. He only had one big hit off that first one. And it was all over the radio, but when I say big, I think it peaked at number 14 on the pop chart. And then, after the second album, he disappeared. And I mean literally disappeared. Now, I didn't know it because he's from the UK. I didn't know that he was still working behind the scenes, writing music, writing television music, all that stuff. And he finally came back to the masses in 2018 with 2 new CDs that are just phenomenally good. This is Ali Thompson. This is his second album, Deception is an Art. It got terrible water damage back here as a result. I just picked up a new copy of it from Jim, Jim at Radio Wasteland. I haven't cataloged it yet, though, so it's not on here yet. This album includes Safe and Warm, Foolish Child, which were the 2 singles, and Art Gallery, which I love. This album is fantastic. The album that introduced him to the masses was 1981's Take a Little Rhythm. Take a Little Rhythm was a top 20 hit. Live Every Minute just missed the top 40. It peaked at number 41. Both were huge hits on the Kirkham Report. Love Ali Thompson. Thank you, dude, for coming back to us. Now we get into the sillies. I just featured this dude's single on Regional Obscuria before I stopped doing that a few weeks ago. This whole album is good. It's not great. It's good. He still does music, still produces stuff, and he's still at it. This is Joey Travolta. This is John's older brother, I believe. I'm not sure if he's older or younger. Um, he had one almost top 40 hit called I Don't Want to Go. It peaked at number 43 in the summer of 1978. This is his only album from Millennium Records, and it's not half bad. It really isn't. John's debut, I picked this up more recently. I think since I joined the vinyl community, I found it somewhere for $2. Um, I had the single Letter In, of course, was a top 10 hit off here. Whenever I'm Away From You came from the second album. Um, but he does a lot of good covers on here. He does Eric Carmen's Never Gonna Fall in Love Again, A Girl Like You, which was later done by Billy Catt and a few other people. Um, it's a pretty good album. John is never taken seriously as a singer. I mean, he was always competent. Best probably for Grease, although we got quite a good notices for Hairspray also. This album, which I did just pick up recently again in the cutout bin, Travolta Fever, is actually his first album and his second album on one disc. This includes John's incredible version of Easy Evil, which was written by Alan O'Day or Peter McCann, I forget which, and the later version I really love is by Captain Tennille. This has all the singles, everything he had done up to Grease, and if you want a complete collection of his early stuff, this is the album to look for. Walked into Buzzard's Nest Records one day after I was no longer working there back in the 80s, looking for something new, and the manager says, "Hey, you'll like this." They were playing it in store, and I did like it, and I bought it. I had no idea he had been the lead singer of Rainbow. This is Joe Lynn Turner. I used several of his songs on Hair Metal, on Hair Salon, Rescue You, Endlessly, Young Hearts, all great songs, all singles, none of which hit the top 40, but the album is fantastic. And then 70s crooners had to be different than 50s and 60s crooners. Barry Manilow was hugely successful. There were a few songwriters that did okay, like Kenny Nolan, Alan O'Day, Peter McCann, Rupert Holmes, although I wouldn't consider Rupert a crooner. This dude isn't really a crooner either, but he does get lumped into that because one of the albums I don't have was filled with these lush string arrangement ballads, including his biggest hit, I Just Want to Stop. This is from 1985. This is Gino Vanelli and Black Cars. Features the title track and Hurts to Be in Love. And there was one other single off here too. I think it was Just Emotion Away. Women were nuts for him. Rightfully so. This is his 1981 album, Nightwalker, which features the title track and his other big hit, Living Inside Myself. Of course, the album I don't have, Brother to Brother, is the one that had I Just Want to Stop, and Wheels of Life, which was a top 10 AC hit, but it didn't make the top 40 on the pop chart. And if you don't know who Gino Vanelli is, look him up. He's actually a music teacher, professor now. All right, I want to talk about this gentleman. He was going to be the first person I talked about on my Too Soon show. We lost him in his early 50s. He was an incredible songwriter, a more than competent vocalist, and produced 4 really terrific albums between 1977 and 1981, and 2 more duo albums, one of which I have, and we'll see when I do the duos. I haven't been able to get the other one yet. This gentleman, if you don't know his name, and you like singer-songwriter stuff from the mid-70s, you should look him up. His name is Roger Voudouris. This is his 1980 album, A Guy Like Me. This featured The Last Love Song, which is a duet with Kiki D, New Wave Shoes, and the single was Too Late to Change Her. Incredible album. I love this. Love this album. In Warner Brothers dropped him after that album didn't sell. He signed with Boardwalk in 1981 and released On the Heels of Love. This was his final major label release. Again, terrific stuff on here. He does a lot of great ballads. He's capable of up-tempo also. First Love is on this album, which is, I think, my favorite song by him overall. Song you'll hear occasionally on AM 70s, and the one he's best known for, his only top 40 hit. This is Roger Voudouris and Radio Dream. Features Get Used to It, and Radio Dream was also a single. Both of those songs were fantastic. This album, excellent. His debut solo album from 1977 or 78, when he still had the cheesy mustache, Roger Voudouris. I found this in the cutout bin in 1985 or 86. I didn't even know it existed at that point. What Are You Doing After Class? Hold On. Will I Ever Feel Good Again? Great, great stuff. Roger Voudouris is worth looking into if you don't know who he is. He was fantastic, and I miss him terribly. You guys are going to think, wow, TC, that's a bit heavy for you, isn't it? No. I love this guy. I have everything he's done so far. Two things on vinyl. The rest is on CD, and I have one thing I think is digital only. I love this dude. And he seems to have taken a big step back. People thought maybe he would do something new this year because it's the 20th anniversary of the first album. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. He's too wrapped up being Mr. Cat Dennings. This is Andrew WK, and God is Partying. This came from 2021. This is the most recent album. It is good. It's not great like the other ones, but it is definitely a good album. And I have this on CD as well. This is The Wolf from 2003, sorry. 18? No. 2003. I would have made 25th anniversary for the first album then. This includes Tear It Up, Your Rules, Make Sex, which is like this 44-second track. Andrew WK is just the best party rocker around. You can slam on him all you want, but I Get Wet, the first album, I played that thing to death. I still love it to this day. Okay, let's go into the W's proper. And a guy that some people think of as, oh, he's a soap star. You know, he is. And a good one. And he had quite a following. General Hospital, Melrose Place, several TV movies. But I always thought Jack Wagner was a good vocalist. This is the original EP version of All I Need, his first album. It just has 5 songs on it, including his number 2 title track. Premonition should have been a huge hit. It was the follow-up single. Great stuff. And then a few months later, the full album came out. Same cover. This is the full album. Also includes his Barely Scraped the Hot 100 Lady of My Heart, which I think peaked at number 96. I have all of Jack's stuff. This is Don't Give Up Your Day Job. This is his 3rd album and my favorite. I love this album. It has the unbelievably awesome Island Fever on it. And Weatherman Says was the first single, which I wasn't that thrilled with. His best album overall. The middle album, Lighting Up the Night, also good. Not as good as that 3rd album, which I think is his best. But it does have Lighting Up the Night, I'll Be There, Love Can Take Us All the Way, which was featured on General Hospital when he was on there, and some other good stuff. But that third album, Don't Give Up Your Day Job, is a masterpiece. I'm going to make sure this is the one I think it is. Yep. This is the first album released as a solo artist by an artist who is probably best known for all the other bands he did, But he did have one monster hit. I don't have that album. I have the singles from it, though. John Waite and Ignition. John, of course, was the leader of the Babies beforehand and the leader of Bad English afterward. John, this is the album with Change, which was his first MTV hit. Did not do that well on his initial release. They reissued it after Missing You came out after the second album, and it still didn't hit the top 40, but it did considerably better. This is great 80s pop rock at its best. I got this from Black Box. I was not enamored with it, but I know other people in the vinyl community that like this stuff. Coulter Wall and Imaginary Appalachia. It's interesting. I'm not going to say anything bad about it. I can't. I don't really remember it. I just remember not being taken by it when I listened to it. Do you recognize the name Steve Walsh? If you're a Kansas fan, you should. This is Steve's debut solo album. He hasn't done a solo album in decades until 2026. New album came out, no, actually it was late 2025. I haven't picked it up yet, but I want to. The two songs I've heard off of it are tremendously good. This has Every Step of the Way and Schemer Dreamer, That's All Right, which were hits on the rock chart. Steve is always a great vocalist, and I love this album. This is another guy we lost way too young. It was his own. I mean, I can't say it was his own fault. He ended up dying of throat cancer when he was 53. But he had been messed up for years before that with booze and everything else. When he was a child star, and he wasn't really a child star, he was 18 at the time. He was quite hot in the teen magazines, and if you don't mind his accent, he's a really terrific performer. This is the debut solo album from Jack Wild. It's called the Jack Wild Album. This came out around the time H.R. Pufnstuf premiered. It was after Oliver, and did not have any hits. Picture of You was the main single, and he also did his version of Maxwell's Silver Hammer, was also a single. If you can deal with his Cockney accent, it's a good album. If not, you might have trouble with it. I always loved it myself. I picked this up at an auction in the 80s, and it's in great shape. Andy Williams, Moon River, and Other Great Movie Themes. This is one of his biggest selling albums of all time. Picked this up from Dawn, I believe. Great, great classics of Andy's doing. He does Moon River, Love's a Many Splendid Thing, A Summer Place, Maria, the usual covers that Andy and his spectacularly beautiful voice always delivered. I've said this on other shows. Of all the old-time crooners, I like a lot of them. Andy was one of my favorites, and my mother couldn't stand him. I don't know why Mom didn't like him, but I got my love from Andy Williams from my grandmother, who adored him. And it's easy to see why. The man had an incredible voice. Next up, a series of albums from someone who, again, is an acquired taste. I like him. I've always liked him. And I picked most of these up from the vinyl community, although I had one before that. Picked them up in good sales from Adam at Record Crate, I think. Most of them came from there. And they're a variety of years, going from the early 70s to the late 70s. But if you don't like his vocals, you do like his songwriting. I can't even count the number of songs the Carpenters had hits with from him and his partner Roger Nichols. This is Paul Williams, a little on the windy side. I believe this is from 78. This is when he was on Portrait Records, which is a later album. Most of the early stuff is on A&M. 79. I was close. No big hits on it, but a lot of great stuff. Of course, he never had really big hits on his own, although a couple of his early stuff did hit the Hot 100. Never had a top 40 hit on his own. But I love his unique sound. And that vibrato of his is phenomenal. This is this is an A&M from 70 or 71. Just an old-fashioned love song. That's the original version. Of course, Three Dog Night had a huge hit with it. Has that wonderful die cut sleeve. Get it out. It's going to be a pain, so I'm not going to do it. Again, a lot of the styles that Paul was known for back then, Waking Up Alone, We've Only Just Begun is on here, Let Me Be the One. Both of those were Carpenter's staples. Terrific stuff. I traded this for a single from a school friend when I was in 4th grade. White cover because I didn't get the sleeve. But this is Paul Williams' Life Goes On. This is what introduced me to his singing. And I've always loved it, although Where Do We Go From Here is probably the best known song on here. And his version of I Won't Last a Day Without You, which is just freaking awesome. Of course, that song was done by it was the Shadow of Your Smile of the early 70s. Everybody felt the need to record it. The Carpenters had a top 20 hit with it. Andy Williams had a hit out. Andy and David Williams had a hit out. It was their first single. And Maureen McGovern, one of her first hits. Great album. This one is basically a collection of some of his greatest hits that he redid. It's not a greatest hits collection because he never had hits. I'm sorry, I cannot call this a greatest hits collection, although every song on this album you will know. I would bet. Waking Up Alone, You and Me Against the World, We've Only Just Begun, Evergreen, Old Fashioned Love Song, Rainy Days and None Days. I Won't Last a Day Without You. They're all on here. Paul Williams was phenomenal. And if you don't like his voice, that's cool. I've just always been a fan. And here's that iniquitous Bruce Willis I was talking about. I had the second album on cassette. Bruce did not take this seriously. It showed, and it was hella fun. His cover of Under the Boardwalk is terrific. He's got Mavis Staples and the other members of the Staples Singers singing back up on most of this album. Yes, Respect Yourself was his only hit. And it's a great album. I'm sorry if you don't like him. Tough. And the last group here, I got this from Black Box. Couldn't believe it. They knew I liked classic R&B. And you can't get any more classic than this dude. And oh God, this is a great album. Jackie Wilson, Higher and Higher. What can you do better for R&B than this guy? Fantastic. Picked this up in that 10-cent sale. Pete Wingfield. And you can see the cut it here again. 18 with a Bullet was the hit single off Breakfast Special. It peaked at number 19, I want to say, here in the States. It was a big hit in Britain. It's actually, if you like that song, you'll like the whole album. It's got that soul, R&B, reggae sound to it. Really good stuff. Steve Winwood's first major hit as a solo artist. This is Arc of a Diver. Includes Why You See a Chance, Arc of a Diver, and Night Train. What an album. I haven't picked up any of his albums since, but my God, I love this album. Got this as a prize for getting on Rockline when he was a guest and getting my question answered about one of his songs. Stevie Wonder and Characters, this was his album out at the time. I don't remember whether Martha Quinn or Mary Turner was holding court at that point in time. But I asked him a question about his song Stay Gold from The Outsiders, wanted to know if it was ever going to be released. And he said eventually he planned to release it on something. It wasn't a single ever because it was kind of a half song. It did finally come out on Song Review, which is this incredible, completely expansive double CD greatest hits collection, and he put Stay Gold on there, and that was fantastic. There were no big hits off this album, but it's your typical You Will Know was okay, wasn't a huge hit, and his duet with Michael Jackson, Get It, is on here. But this was the last album he had a really fairly decent top 40 hit off of, and it's really good. And I don't have any of Stevie's other albums either. Got tons of his singles and the greatest hits collection on CD, because you want to talk about perfect R&B for the mid-70s, give me Sir Duke any day. I love that song. Um, this came from Black Box also. I listened to it once. It's very good. It's Bobby Womack and The Bravest Man in the Universe. Um, I knew who he was, but I wasn't that familiar with his music. But this was a really good album, and I think it probably deserved better than it got when it came out. Um, Another guy I want to talk to you about um, that we lost a couple years ago. He was a local dude, not in the performance area, but he was a star in the sense that local radio played him. He didn't get that much airplay around the country. In fact, I featured one of his songs on Regional Obscuria. But he did have one big hit on the pop chart called "Stay the Night," "Steal the Night," and a fairly big follow-up called "Just Can't Win 'Em All." They were both huge hits on the R&B chart. And I never thought he got what he deserved, and I always loved him. This is Stevie Woods, his third album, Attitude. No big hits off this again. Heart Stop Beating in Time would later be a big hit for its songwriter, Holly Knight. Well, not a big hit, but a modest hit. Ain't That Peculiar was also good. This was his final album on Cotillion. His debut album on Cotillion was this one, Take Me to Your Heaven. Features those two singles, Just Can't Win 'Em All and Steal the Night. Stevie was born in Columbus, Ohio, and had just done a stint in the Army when he was recording. Great, great album, and truly fantastic mid-'80s, early '80s R&B. The Woman in My Life is the album that comes between the two of those, featuring the title track and the danceable ladies of the '80s that I remember best off this album. Love this guy. He passed away, I want to say in 2018. He was only in his early 60s. Really awesome performer. Um, Everybody knows this guy if you were around during the mid '80s because you couldn't get away from the singles from the one album. But I have a lot of early stuff by him too. We'll see one of them when we get to the greatest hits, I think, or maybe it's in the groups. I'm not sure. But I do have the three main solo albums that came out in the '80s. This is the third one, Paul Young and Between Two Fires. This featured Some People, and Between Two Fires was on here too. Wonderland and why does a man have to be strong? I never can say that song. It's really good, and this album did not get the attention it deserved. It was out after his peak 2 year period. The earliest album was this one, No Parlay, featured Come Back and Stay, which is still my favorite song by him. Also, Love of the Common People, Tender Trap, and Broken Man. Great stuff from Paul Young. The Secret of Association was his monster album. It featured his monster #1 hit, Every Time You Go Away. And its follow-up, I'm going to Tear Your Playhouse Down. I want to say there was a third single off this album. Everything Must Change. That's it. It was completely remixed for the single. Great albums, very much Blue-Eyed Soul, and I love the guy. Now, technically, this is a half instrumental, half vocal album. Um, and I'm the first person to admit at the time he wasn't the best singer. He's still not the best singer. But at the time he recorded this, he was 15. He turned 16 before it came out. He had just picked up the guitar 2 years earlier. And he is his father's son in that aspect. But he does do some incredible stuff. I have a bunch of stuff. I did have a bunch of stuff on digital that I bought from Pledge Music, and I didn't get a CD of it. And so when I lost my drive, I lost 5 albums by the guy. And I'd still love to get them. So if you have them and can digitize them for me, let me know. This is the debut album from Dweezil Zappa, Having a Nice Day, Having a Bad Day. Features the title track, Electric Hoedown, which I feature quite frequently on Hair Salon, and his incredible ballad, I Feel Like I Want to Cry, which I love. He also does the pirate song, Having a Bad Day, I Want a Yacht, all kind of comedic in tone. Really good, though, and it's an underrated album. This guy, okay. American fans, you are not going to have any freaking clue who this is. Carlson might, because I sent him a CD, but you are not going to know the name. If you're Canadian, you might, because he's been in the business for 30 plus years, and he started as a pop star, went to crooners and standards, and now is doing a lot of stage work. On this album, he went simply by Zappacosta. Zappacosta is Alfie Zappacosta. This is the one album I have by him on vinyl. I have 3 albums on CD. And I got to look at it to remember what's on this one for sure. This has We Should Be Lovers, and which was probably my favorite song outside When I Think About You, which is on his first album. Quick something. I can't remember the name of it. I have it on CD. He has a very Meatloaf-esque style and voice, and the production is similar to the Jim Steinman stuff. I have loved Alfie forever. His album, The Innocence Ballet, that came out in '95, I believe. It's standards, and it is incredible. Seek out this guy if you're into that kind of music. He's worth a listen to. And finally, rounding out my gentleman is this one. I have only listened to this once. I've never been a huge fan of his earlier stuff. I like his single. Everybody likes Werewolves of London. This is Warren Zevon, and it came out, I believe, this was his final album, The Wind. I might be wrong. There might have been one after he passed away. It's quite pleasant. I'm not a huge fan. I do like this album. I like his cover of Knocking on Heaven's Door, especially. And I don't know, maybe I need to give him another chance, because I've just never got into his 70s and 80s stuff. But it's definitely worth thinking about. And Mr. Zevon will wrap up my male artists. When we come back, the next 4 shows, there will be 3 shows of female artists, mostly our vocals, ranging. I have a lot more. This is going to sound strange because I'm not into it, but when it comes to country music, I seem to have more country music on album by females than anybody else, because I have a ton of Dolly Parton, I have a ton of Lynn Anderson, I have quite a few early country pop albums from Olivia Newton-John. So we'll get to those next show, and then we'll have 3 shows of females, and then a full show of duos, which will probably be mostly made up by Carpenter's Captain Tennille and a couple of other ones. Pop stuff. I'm the pop guy, remember. Thank you for watching. If you could like, share, subscribe, I would appreciate it. Let people know this is out here. Love some comments on these. I'm not getting any comments on these. I had a ton of people saying, oh, we can't wait for you to do this. And nobody's coming. Quite a few people watching, but nobody's coming, not saying anything. So, and thank you to Henry for commenting last time, too. I forgot to thank him. Great stuff coming as we continue through this series. Wait until we get into the soundtracks and various artists, and you're going to think I'm nuts. In any case, until next time for TC's Vinyl Archive, the complete album collection, I am the titular TC Kirkham. I will see you on the interwebs. Ciao, baby.